Who predicted we were going to get a fighting game based off of Invincible? Because I'll tell you now, it was not me. On my birthday, which is a very important holiday that you all should be celebrating, Xbox Showcase announced an array of titles, but among the most interesting to me was a 3v3 fighting game based off of the Invincible series called... This isn't some kind of trailer analysis or theory video, so if you're one of those nerds that likes that stuff, just shut up and listen to what I'm going to say, because honestly, you're here for my thoughts and nothing else. First thing I want to touch base on is the art style. I think it is insanely cool. Off the top of my head, I can't think of a lot to compare it to other than like the Walking Dead Telltale series and Borderlands. But regardless, I think it's really interesting and I can't wait to see it more and more in action. Is there going to be a campaign in this game? I really think that with as good of a story as the show and the comics have, granted I haven't read the comics, I know that there's some differences, I just don't know all of them off the top of my head, other than like season 3 of the show is going to have a whole new storyline that wasn't in the comics. Anyway, that's a ramble. But what would a campaign in Invincible versus cover? Would it be more than the show has currently, which would spoil some stuff for a lot of people who are only watching the show? Or will it do stuff differently than the show and the comics, which would invite everyone to come to the game? Granted, there are some people who would complain that they wanted to play some iconic fights from the show or from the comics. So if you change the campaign, they might not get to do that. But I'll touch base with that later on. We also got to see a few snippets of Nolan in his Viltrumite suit, which this isn't the first time we've seen it. Obviously they show it in the show and I believe in the comics, but I still think it's really cool because Viltrumite Nolan just looks tough. I love the Omni-Man suit, I really do. But Viltrumite Nolan in action is something else to see. And that kind of led me to think about, is there going to be costumes? Because I don't know, I'm not really getting the vibe right now that this game is going to do what the Budokai Tenkaichi series did in Dragon Ball, where, you know, different costumes of different characters to an extent. And I will talk a little bit more about different versions of characters later, like Alan from the beginning of the show versus Alan post season 2, I think. And costumes in general would be really interesting. My hope is that they take the approach that games seem to be scared of doing for whatever reason. Now granted, I don't play a lot of fighting games, I'll tell you that now. Okay, so I could be totally left field wrong on this, but I play, you know, Sparking, the old BT games, I play Naruto Storm Connections, I played Storm 4, I played some Street Fighter 6, and some Mortal Kombat 1, Mortal Kombat 11, Mortal Kombat 10. I have a little bit of experience with fighting games. I'm very, very surface level. So when I say this, I don't want you all to start sitting there and pissing your pants and losing your minds over my opinion. I know my opinion is, you know, super important to you, but just take it with a grain of salt to an extent because I don't play that much like you guys do. Okay? But I feel like a lot of games are afraid to go into costumes that don't currently exist in the show or comics or just really any source material in general. For whatever reason, it feels like there's a lot of fighting games, or at least in my experience, the ones that I play the most, they're afraid to just be like, hey, you know what, let's just give this guy a tuxedo, which is something that I know Storm has given a few characters over the years. Let's give this guy or gal, I wouldn't want this, but I know my buddy Rogue probably would, you know, like swimsuits and whatnot. Or, hey, let's put them in a random lobster costume. Because why not? Because games are meant to be fun. And if you just create these costumes and you just start either adding them for free in updates, which is the ideal route, or fucking charge $1 for them. Like, make them cheap, make them so that people will want to buy them in droves, and you will make your money, I assure you that. I don't necessarily want this game to have microtransactions, but if that is the extent of it, is like dollar costumes and recolors and everything, I'd be happy. Went on a tangent there because customization is one of my favorite things in any game that I play. I'm also, which a lot of you know, a huge fan of a very certain character who did not seem to make an appearance in the trailer unless I missed it, but I was trying to look for it, so I don't think I missed him. Conquest. He was the first video I posted on this channel, really hoping he will make his way into this game, because I'm ideally going to run a trio of Conquest, Nolan, and Mark. We got to see Adam Eve do a transformation, which was really cool to watch, because in the show, it was cool and it was very unexpected. I don't know, just the design is kind of weird to me, but it looked really cool, in my opinion, in this art style. Is the game going to have transformations? Is the next thing I wanted to talk about because of that. Adam Eve, obviously, we saw her do that, which it could just be an ultimate ability if that's how the game's movesets are going to work out, is having like ultimates and whatnot. I could see that, you know, she does her ultimate, and that was like the cutscene for it, was her on the ground and changing. But transformations is a legitimate question for some of the characters in the show. It's not like Dragon Ball or even Naruto, where some of the characters, their big thing is transforming, changing forms, completely changing their appearance and powers, yada yada yada. But there's some characters where it might be applicable, like, you know, we could see Alan changing from his skinny form to his buff form, which he wasn't really that skinny in the beginning, but I mean, you know what I mean, he wasn't as fucking giant as he is in the later half. We could see, you know, one of the Mauler twins characters turning into what we called it, the original, right, or something, when he was like half fucked up. We could have, what was that dude's name? The really smart guy. Angstrom. We could have Angstrom, like, as his normal self, be the base form, and then transform into the big, long brain Angstrom. That would be neat. So, there's some characters where transformations are a plausible thing to see happen. Are there going to be character combinations where they have special moves or, you know, special ultimates or cutscenes, interactions, whatever, like Nolan and Mark, Nolan and Alan, Mark and Eve, even Rex, you know, characters that you would probably expect, and then probably some random ones too. Like, I could see Rex having something smart to say about Alan, or even Anissa, if Anissa ends up in this game. Mark and Thrag, even if Thrag ends up in the game but he's not in the campaign, having a unique little lore-accurate conversation between the two of them would be neat. Just, I don't know. You could have a lot of fun with this if they choose to pursue it at all. The last thing I want to touch base on is game modes. Now, fighting games thrive off of having numerous modes for people to play, but I also think that sometimes there might be a little too many, and granted, off the top of my head, I don't have any good examples, because I'm a little slow sometimes. I'm allowed to say that, you aren't, just so you know, because I'm better. Anyway, I think it'd be neat to have a little bit of a diversity, so that way there's the option there, but we don't want it to go too wide, because if the player base doesn't just sustain well enough, then you're going to sit there in queues forever, right? So I think 3v3s, you know, the game mode they advertise is cool. 2v2s and 1v1s would also be important, in my opinion, to have as options, so that way people can do those. Tournament modes, ranked, free play, which ranked and free play are obviously just kind of overarching for 3, 2, and 1 versus. And then also a what if mode on top of the campaign, which is what I wanted to bring up earlier, and I stopped myself, fortunately, for the sake of continuity. Having a what-if mode where people can play the, essentially, main fights, or just random fights even. So, like, if they do a campaign that is completely different in most ways from the show and comics, then the what-if mode, or whatever they would title it, would be like, hey, here's some of the canon fights so you can do it, and they've got little cutscenes with them, and yada. Or if they do it more faithful to the show, then it could be random stuff like, okay, well, what if we played as one of the Mark variants from across the multiverse, and their fight against Nolan, or their fight against Angstrom, or yada yada yada, stuff like that. Yeah, I didn't even bring that up in costumes, just all the Invincible variants. I figured that was kind of a given, but I could be wrong. I really want Omnivincible. He was one of my favorite variants. I thought he was so fucking tough. And you're probably wondering, but
Berg, there's like a whole other half of the video still to go to.
And I'm gonna tell you, shut up. Okay, I'm getting there. I know I said I touched base with the last thing I want to touch base on, and I meant it. Now, I would like to introduce you all to a close friend of mine who's been doing commentary style content for a few years now. He's pretty good at it, in my opinion. He's a little rusty because he's been out of the game for a while because busy lifestyle, but I would like to give the floor to my good friend, the Graceful Rogue.
What's up, everybody? It's the Graceful Rogue here, stepping out of the shadows to bring you content. Oh man, I missed that. I'm here in a little cameo video today, so first off, what's up? But we are talking about the Invincible video, and I kind of want to split this, so he's going to give his opinion, I'm going to give my opinion on it and views, and you know, if you like that, stick around. If you don't like that, well, fuck you. You don't want to hear someone else's opinion? That's not the point. Anyway, look. So the Invincible game, right? First of all, did not know this was coming. Apparently people have been knowing about this for months, so we might be a little late to the party. I don't keep up with everything, especially for me loving fighting games. It's kind of crazy I didn't know about this. But the fact that Invincible series is getting a fighting game, and it's made by the same people that made Killer Instinct, which I didn't play Killer Instinct heavily, but like, you know, when I did start playing it, I wasn't really too good at fighting games, so I didn't know what I was doing, but I always loved watching it. So the fact that they're making this game is amazing. It's more of the old people they got together. They got like a new studio and shit like that. I think it's like Quarter Up or some shit like that, which is a sick name, like for like people that go to arcades and shit. Love that. But anyway, I do have a little bit of a background in fighting games, so my opinion is going to be more so talking about like the comparisons and I guess how people are viewing this game, how people are looking at it, and you know, how I view it, so we'll get into that as well. Okay, first things first, the 3v3 aspect, right? First off, the fact that they did this for Invincible makes sense, love it. Also, the fact that it's Invincible series, but it's like a Mortal Kombat in a sense because of how gruesome it is, which is true to the series, so like that makes sense. I love that scene, like Mark's ult and how bloody people get off that shit. Like it looks amazing, fucked up brutal violence, can't complain about that. But the 3v3 aspect, right? Some people I've been seeing, they've been comparing it, they're saying, oh, it's like Dragon Ball Fighters, which is the same thing people have been saying when they see the new Marvel Tokon game, I believe, which looks sick as well. I might do a video on that, but that's a separate subject. They see the 3v3 tag aspect and immediately assume, well, Marvel's case is 4v4, but they see a tag aspect and they're like, oh my god, it's like Fighters. Now, I get it. Some people have been like, oh my gosh, you understand that Marvel vs. Capcom did that? Yeah, okay, that's fair. A lot of people, why they're saying Fighters instead is because that one is the most recent one to go off memory. And you got to realize a lot of people, I guess, nowadays never really experienced the MVC3 days and shit like that. They're more so experienced with Fighters. So more of their tag fighters is probably that, or if you can think of anything else before MVC3. I thought it was MVC3 that coined the tag fighter aspect, but I could be wrong. If it's a game I don't know of, maybe you guys know, say it in the comments. It is what it is. But the fact that fighting game, at least tag fighters, will be eating good because you have, again, Invincible, Marvel, Tokon, whatever. But let's honestly, I'm just focused on just the Invincible because that's what this video is titled for, right? But the fact that Invincible has a tag fighter with 3v3. The character possibilities are damn near endless because, of course, you have characters like freaking obviously Mark, Omni-Man, freaking Eve. You got Ray. Fuck, there's so many options. You got the Muller brothers. Now, this might be controversial. Flame if you want. I want playable Cecil. By the way, I'm Team Cecil. Look, I mean, yeah, towards the end of the last season, if you're all caught up, his decision was fucked up, but for the most part I'm always Team Cecil. So if he was playable, even if he's just like an annoying character that just warps over the screen and just, I don't know, summon government lasers down, I'd be sick of that. I'd have Cecil on my team all the time. Alan the alien better be playable. Who else? Honestly, there's so many characters. I want to see Anissa playable. Shit, like just characters in general. Freaking Alan the alien could have two variants. He could have like the variant like when the show started, and then the new variant where he's like strong as fuck. And then we have someone like a more, yeah, anyway, freaking duplicate. The character possibilities are truly endless. So I don't know. I really don't. The fact that this game's coming out next year, looking forward to it for sure. And like I said, for a fighting game person, I do enjoy this because my first like fighting game experience or getting good at it was Injustice 2. That's the game. I played a lot of fighting games before, but in terms of Injustice 2, that was a game I sat down and really learned fighting games, like frame data, recovery, all that shit. Like I really just full dived in. So I'm looking forward to see how the combat works for this game. I heard Maximilian, if y'all are familiar with him, he's a very popular like fighting game broadcaster, talker. He did some competitive games for a while, but he's more just known as like the fighting game guy for just his opinions and shit and talking about it. But he was saying, and he was actually there during an interview with them because he's been known about the project for months, but he was saying that this game has a really good balance for a tag fighter because usually, for those of you that aren't too familiar, tag fighters, like for example, Dragon Ball Fighters, if you touch a character, for the most part, they're probably dead, or at least 2 touch. That's usually how these games go. It's like you touch a character once or twice and you probably killed them with assists, just combo damage. That's usually how these games go. They're very fast paced. But Maximilian was saying that for this game, it's very balanced in the fact that there's not only a lot of offensive options, but defensive options. And it actually makes you think a lot on how to approach the game because, you know, instead of just getting beat up in a simple 1-touch, 2-touch, there's actually ways to get out of it. There's going to be a lot of back and forth. It's going to add nuance and creative, I guess, mind games to the fighting game. So that'll be cool. Now, me personally, I'm an aggressive as fuck player. So if games have too strong defensive options, I get upset as fuck. And that was my issue with Sparking Zero when it first came out. But having that is also cool because you got to acknowledge people have different playstyles. So some people like having a more defensive playstyle. So for them, they're going to love that. That's going to be cool as fuck. But anyway, oh God, by the way, Eve, I don't know if he's going to show the gameplay or not, and maybe I'll do it. I don't know. But Eve's gameplay, if any of you played Marvel vs. Capcom 3, she is like a straight up Storm kind of character. Or maybe it's not Storm, I'm thinking of someone else, where they just have dumb shit they could do in the air and keep you in the air for long ass periods of time. And Eve looks, she's going to be one of those characters. I'm going to give the opinion side over to, well, the other guy, obviously. And before that, my question to you guys is, who do you plan on maining? Who do you want in the game? And at the same time, what would you want in terms of like, would you want a strong campaign for this game, or do you not care and you just hope for good online? I mean, all can be true at the same time too, if that's your question, or my question to you guys. By the way, that was like more than one question, so I'm a fucking liar. But anyway, pass it over. Glad to be back, and yeah, peace.
All right, and thank you for your contributions to today's video, Rogue. His channel will be linked in the description. If you have anything to say, please keep it to yourself, because I absolutely hate reading comments. I hope this video has been entirely unhelpful to you, and I hope you have a bad day. It is 9 o'clock in the morning, and I got off at almost midnight, so this might be a little rough. I'm gonna do my best. Dude, as soon as I start fucking recording, something's gotta fall apart. Jesus Christ. You know, just, you know, fucking... So, anyway, character who Jesus Christ. I can't just fucking record without some shit going on. So,
Ah, fuck.